an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece episodes 169, nice, 170, and 171. These are The Deadly Reject, War Demon Wyper's Resolve, and Fierce Mid-Air Battle, Pirate Zorro versus Warrior Braham. I didn't even realize that was his name. And then, The Roaring Burn Bazooka, Luffy versus War Demon Wyper. In these episodes, there is a lot of fighting, and it's very different. All of the fighting is extremely different, and I'm here for it. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. So, y'all, I have got to start out by saying that while there is fighting practically amongst everybody, there is one person. There is one person that I hesitate to use the word fight, because it's just over so fast, and that is Nico Robin, who dispatches the man trying to threaten her with the kind of dismissive nonchalance one would use to throw an empty cup into a trash can. It is unbelievable. This bitch is so bored by him. I cannot get enough of how little time she has for any of this bullshit. It's not like, I don't feel like she hates the Straw Hats, and I'm saying that she is separate from the Straw Hats because she just is. Let's all be real. We don't know her, right? We've gotten backstory, real, genuine backstory on pretty much everybody except for her. She just gave us that weird, I found myself being hunted down by the Marines. And I'm like, you found yourself being hunted down? That's definitely the kind of passive voice reporters use when a cop kills somebody and just tries to be like, man was shot during blank, blank, blank. Yeah, we know you're hiding something. Nobody here apparently seems to care that much, and that's fine. I sort of feel like the vibe that a lot of the Straw Hats have with her, if you've watched The Circle, which I recommend because it's just so much fun, but the vibe that some people in the crew seem to sort of have is the same that some people will have in The Circle if they think someone might be a catfish, and they're just like, well, maybe they're a catfish, but they're dope, so it's fine, and they don't really care. And they feel like it's the vibe with the personality instead of the photo and whether they're exactly who they say that really matters. And then there's people like Zorro who are constantly just sort of like, I mean, I do want to know what you're up to, though. And I understand both perspectives, but honestly, after seeing the way that she just handles everything without the slightest, effort in, seemingly expended for it, and how much she feels like Owen had called her, I think I mentioned, the one person in a D&D campaign who really isn't invested in playing their character. And I felt like that was sort of rude at the time because it felt like he was sort of saying that the voice actress was not putting in a full effort. But now I sort of think that he may be right, except that it's more in a character sense where everybody here has this sort of ego that they've brought to the table, and Nico is sort of the only one who seems to be completely uninterested in maintaining any sort of reputation. Nico is just here to do whatever it is Nico needs to do, and we still don't really entirely know what that is, but I trust that it's not going to result in the deaths of any of our people, because I don't feel like if she were up to something nefarious, well, by nefarious, I mean ultimately harmful to our crew, that she would be as, like, cavalier as she's being. I just think she sort of sees the Straw Hats as, like, a public bus, you know? And she's grabbing a ride, and she will deal with them as she can, but it isn't, like, a priority for her to make nice with these folks. And part of me sort of wants to see her really, really try and make nice, and just to see, like, what that would even look like, because I enjoy watching characters play against the type that we have seen the whole season or whatever. But I do just hope that it doesn't turn out that she's playing everybody. Part of me thinking that she's not doing anything that's ultimately going to harm our friends is wishful thinking and hopeful thinking. I want to believe that. I don't want her to be up to something that's going to hurt anybody. I want her to be up to something that's, like, her business, and she has a very specific plan, and once it's time to enact that plan, she will, like, get off the bus and take care of it. And probably, knowing the Straw Hats, they will insist on helping her because they will feel like they have bonded with her by then. But I trust that won't have been her intention, that she hadn't, like, joined up with them out of a desire to have a team backing her up in whatever it was she was going to do. So, anyway, I just want to mention her right out of the gate, because the scene, so these guys are, what are they called again? The Divine Guards, and they look like weird, hairless goat men. I really do not care for this, by the way. First, I thought they were meant to be sheep, and that it was supposed to be sort of like a either dig at the fact that, like, these people who are super religious are sheep, but I don't feel like that fits with the tone that we've had this season. He's not being dismissive or shitty about people who are religious. And so then I was like, well, maybe it's like God's flock. You know, like, there's always that kind of thing about God is your shepherd and you are part of his flock that he is guarding. And that's like a big part of the sort of symbolism that I saw in the church that my dad went to. There was a lot of, like, shepherd's crooks as decorations in the home, various things that were sheep related, meant to, you know, convey that you are one of this group. And it was done in a prideful sort of way. Well, prideful is the wrong word, but you know what I mean. They weren't saying, I'm a sheep, like, I follow. They were being like, I'm being looked after. So I thought it was that. But it seems pretty clear they're really meant to be goats. Based on what Luffy says a couple times about thinking it's a goat. I trust Luffy's judgment on an animal. I just do, even though he is very stupid. I think he knows what a goat sounds like. And they have those, like, long floppy ears, which is something that certain types of goats have. Not all of them, but, like, you know, certain, like, Nubian, well, who cares? But there are certain types of goats that have very long floppy ears and others that don't have quite as dramatic. But that sort of feels, for me, a lot more weird and mysterious. Like, why do these guys look this way? That's what it comes down to for me. It's like, when we have a character show up who's weird looking, and they're the one person who's weird looking, I'm like, okay, well, they were just born fucking weird looking. Like, you know, what's his face with the clown nose? And finding out he fucking had that clown nose the whole time. That's how he was apparently born. Sorry. I very am sorry for you, buddy, but that's just how he looked. But this is a whole group of dudes who all look like this. And I can't tell if that's supposed to be because they were, like, all formed from something, or if they were all like, and it seems like they are all guys. Again, this show is very dude heavy. So I don't know what to make of them, but they make me really uncomfortable because of their, like, very bald faces and heads. There's something about combining some of the aspects of what a goat looks like, but then removing all of, like, the fur and hair that makes them very creepy. And it's just, look, it's not to say that certain, like, hairless animals can't be cute in their own weird ass way, but most of the time when hairless animals are cute, despite being hairless, they look as little like a human being as possible. And that's part of why they can carry it through to looking cute. These guys look like guys. And they've just got real long, weird, floppy flesh ears. Like two flaccid penises hanging off of their head. I can't. I don't approve. I am not on their side. I don't like any of it. And one of them tries to hassle her from a building. She's in these ruins and she's looking around like, this place just got completely overgrown. I really hope that like there are some parts of it and the other ruins we're heading to left. And she is obviously very serious about wanting to like preserve the, what is the word I want? She takes the archaeological part of this very seriously in a way that's like, I respect it. I'm also a little puzzled by it because I don't know if like what she plans to do with her knowledge of this place. Are they going to make a map of a bunch of sites that archaeologists should come back and dig up? But this dude comes in and first of all, he throws some attitude at her right away. He calls her woman. And what are you doing here? And then when she's like, what am I doing here? What are you doing here standing on one of these extremely delicate ancient buildings? This is fucked up of you. You just knocked a piece of the stone off. And I just can't with the disrespect. And he tells her, don't talk, or how dare you talk back? And I was like, ooh, buddy, telling her to not talk back is not going to go well for you. And sure enough, she uses her ability to grab him with 6 or 7 different arms. She says with a twist. And I love when she's saying this, all of these like rose petals are floating around her in a sort of very Armstrong from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood moment. And then he like gets grabbed and the camera sort of moves as we hear a bunch of bones break. And he is down and falls off the edge of the building and looks either dead or unconscious. It's a very up in the air thing for me on this show. I have recognized that the white out eyes does not necessarily mean that somebody is dead. It often is just they are unconscious, they're down for the count, they've been badly hurt. But I will say that I'm very surprised in this trio of episodes, we find out that Satoru is actually dead. Word? I just assumed that he had been sort of put out of commission. I didn't realize he was, like, dead. Because that's just such a rare thing on this show. Nobody dies, like, almost ever, you know? So the fact that he's dead, but we can't, like, even he being dead, we're not really allowed to sort of let him be dead because then he has his weird twin brothers show up. So he still gets another kind of representation. It's like as good as if you had brought him back to life. But nevertheless, I just wanted to mention, I did not know that he was supposed to have been killed. Let's see. Seraphim says, given Oda, it could be all the above, or he just felt like drawing goat people. Fair. Gus says there was also Mary in Usopp's village who had sheep-like features, and Moji who had animal-like hair as well. Yeah, well, see, and he goes on to clarify Moji, the lion tamer in Buggy's crew. And see, that's what I mean. Those are one-offs. Like, the guy Mary is the only one that we saw in that village that looked like that. So I'm just like, all right, you were just born fucked up. I don't know what this means. Like, maybe it does mean something. Maybe it means nothing. But it bothers me a lot less when there's only one dude who's, like, kind of animal-ish versus a whole bunch of dudes who are all animal-ish in the same way. They all look like the same kind of animal. That makes me just kind of go, what happened here? Were you all born from the same litter? Like, did somebody just, like, do some weird experiments? What's going on? So anyway, all right, let's talk about episode 169, Nice, the Deadly Reject, because this is something that I wanted to get a little bit of clarification on. So this episode is about the first we get like our first look at these weird goat guys for the most part, in terms of their actually being in the story and not in like sort of a flashback from what Gonfall has told us about. And Gonfall explains the start of this episode. So first of all, I don't know if you guys remember, last episode or the episode before, I said something about how Shura uses very thin clouds for his weapon. Apparently, guys, I genuinely don't know how I knew that, because this is when it's actually explained. So I feel like I had to have gotten like accidentally spoiled or something, because that information wasn't given to me then. But I don't know how that happened, and I didn't recognize that was what was happening. So anyway, I just wanted, like, if anybody was sort of following closely and I mentioned what his weapon actually was and they were like, wait, do we know that yet? No, we did not know that yet. And I don't really know how I didn't guess it. You could hear in my voice when I said it that this was something that I had been told. This wasn't like a theory I had. So I don't know why I knew it, but maybe it is mentioned, but I don't feel like it was, because it was presented in these episodes like it's a big reveal, you know? I don't know. I might be wrong. But anyway, so Gonfall explains a lot about the way that these like weapons work. And what he does is he uses one of the dials as an example for Sanji. Sorry, guys. I'm just like, something's in my throat. So Sanji is told to use this giant mallet to smash this barrel. And there's a dial on the top of the barrel. And of course, Usopp's freaking out because he's going to put a hole in the boat, which I do not blame him for. And Sanji tries to break the barrel and uses as much force as he can muster. And it does nothing. Absolutely nothing. But then Gonfall is like, okay, now press on that dial. And honestly, it's a little bit fucked up, because Gonfall is just like, I want you to press this thing that will maybe explode a hole in the deck of the ship that we're all on and could drown us. I'm not going to tell you that's what's going to happen, but I definitely am telling you to do it. I was just like, man, what is with you though, dude? And it explodes because it absorbed and stored the force of the blow that Sanji had dealt it initially, and just waits to expend it until you press on it. And this sort of reminded me of, in Dresden Files, he has these force rings that are rings that on each of his fingers that collect kinetic energy from his regular movements throughout the day. And he can choose to tap one or all of them to add extra force to blows during fights. So yeah, it's sort of a similar idea, except that you don't need to use a ton of force to power those up. It's sort of a gradual power up, which can actually be a problem because he'll expend them and they're not easy to refill. So one of these dials, I assume you get to use just the once. Is that right? But the thing that I wanted some clarification on with this, because the reject, the deadly reject, is the name of this episode, and the one that we see use that is Wyper, as I will continue to call him because I can't. And I don't feel like we get that one specifically explained. What does a reject dial do? Like, it seems like it's force, because he says, in response to Shura being like, that can't kill me, he says, well, it's not just a force dial. It's got 10 times the power of a regular force dial. So what does that, like, what is used to power up a dial like that? And it just seemed really weird to me because I thought I was paying pretty good attention here, but I don't feel like why is it called the reject dial? Because for me, the name reject dial implies this is something that didn't work. This is one of the dials that's like really dangerous because we don't know what it's going to do because it's a reject. Like when in Harry Potter and Ron's trying to use his wand and it's broken and it just keeps doing random shit or backfires on him or whatever. So if you have a dial that's just force but times 10 of a normal dial, reject isn't the word I would use to name it at all. And I wonder if that's like another translation issue or if that's like something else that I am not getting here. Seraphim says dials are reusable, just need to refill it. That's nice. That's really nice, actually. Okay. Gus says it's the same as the impact dial, but amplifies the force by 10. Yeah, okay. But like, you get what I'm saying, right? The name, it being called the reject dial is weird, isn't it? I just really have to think that this is like a translation thing. But because it probably, the idea of reject can also be to like push away. So maybe it's supposed to be sort of like a shove dial, like, you know what I mean? And they're just using a translation of the word to push away that doesn't quite work, really. I think that may be it. But I just wanted to check because I was like, this is a weird name for it, and it's what the episode is also named, so it feels like I really wanted to mention it. So Seraphim's saying the same thing. Another translation is rejection from just how hard it pushes both the target and the user back. You know, it'd be great because rejection also implies relationship stuff. If it was called like the heartbreak button, the swipe left button, dial, sorry, not button. But anyway, okay. I just wanted to clarify that because I felt like I had sort of missed something there. So yeah, Gonfall is like showing them this because he's explaining all of the things that you have seen these priests do that seem as magic, essentially, are actually really clever usage of dials. And it's really effective against Blue Sea people like you because you don't know about dials. So it appears as if they have got some kind of like magic power. Or I was thinking that they had all eaten devil fruits. I'm still not entirely sure that that's not true. But whatever the devil fruit power is of each of them, I don't like with Satori, he didn't like pull out a secret weapon with a body ability. So I think I can say Satori didn't have a devil fruit. Everybody else, I don't know yet. I'm assuming that they're all just like relying on their dial weapons. But it may turn out at least Eneru, I feel like, has to have eaten a devil fruit. I don't know. Okay, so I gotta get back to this. But yeah, he's explaining about the way that this all works. And then we have a sort of check-in with Eneru. And it's a weird scene. He's talking to a bunch of these dudes who I guess they're like under priests, or I don't know what to call them, because they're priests, but they're not like the ones that are out here fighting. They're like all similar looking black bearded men who there's a vague sense of them not really approving of Eneru. They have wings, so I assume that they're from, the Sky Island people, but they look identical, and I just don't know whether that's just meant to be like, well, we just didn't want to bother animating three totally different guys. They have a very sort of Greek statue look to them with their robes and whatnot. So these dudes, he has a conversation with them where he's trying to get them to guess how many survivors there are going to be at the end of this battle. And they are like, what? Why would we do that? That's actually kind of like a fucked up thing. And he's like, come on. And he even asks this random girl who's like, I'm just a humble serving girl. And I was just like, lady, come on. But eventually he's just like, come on, somebody make a guess. And one of these dudes says that he thinks like 51 people will be left. And Eneru laughs at him, says that's like really optimistic. And then when the guy is like, all right, well, how many do you think will survive? Because clearly the reason you asked us this question was so that we would ask you a question. Eneru says, well, it's very obvious if you just think about it for a moment. And then is like, it would be 5 people left. And I'm like, it's not obvious if you just think about it for a moment, sir. You're just wildly speculating. Because I guess you expect practically everybody to be annihilated? But he says 5. Is that just his priests? Does he have 5 priests left? I don't know why I thought there were fewer than that. Let's go through the priests real quick. Okay, so we have Satori, who has been taken out of circulation. We have Shura, who is the goggles bird man with the javelin that lights things on fire. We have the guy with the dreadlocks who keeps calling Chopper a raccoon dog. And y'all, that shit was so fucking funny. His delivery of that is impeccable. And it was funny the first time he did it, and then when he's talking to a guy and it was like, oh, I just thought he was some kind of raccoon dog. Later, I fucking burst out laughing exactly as hard again because it's still so funny. So let's see. Seraphim says, I think those guys were advisors or high priests to Gonfall before Eneru took over and put his own guys in charge. Okay, so that would make sense about why they're like vaguely disapproving of him. Florian says, you think he will be right? I mean, no, our friends are going to get out. But he said 5, and we've got how many people with us at this point? We've got Luffy, Usopp, Nami, Sanji, Zorro, Chopper, Nico Robin. Is there anybody else? That's everybody, right? So that's 7. So no. But yeah, I just don't like, I'm trying to think. There's another priest who is a really big dude who comes out and fights one of these guys a little bit later. But I don't feel like I've gotten quite enough of a feel for every priest. So I'm having trouble keeping track of them. And it's also just such a weird situation that I don't know if we've had this in another location or another arc on this show. Well, it's not to say it hasn't happened at all, but these guys are coming into a situation in which shit was already like at a simmer and it's starting to boil, so that the Shandorans and the priests are fighting each other, but also fighting the Divine Guardians? Is that what they're called? So there's 3 factions that are like fighting against each other, right? And then there's the Straw Hats, who are like vaguely seen as, if not an enemy, just certainly not something that anybody's going to waste their time like allying with. They're going to try and go after them, as we've seen multiple times. So it's sort of strange because there's so many sides to the conflict, and none of them seem to have a really strong objective that we know of, except the Shandorans, who are like, no, we want our fucking property back. We want our land back. What we know about Eneru and his priests is basically, I think, that he is trying to get at the gold, but I don't really know. Because he says later when he's talking to Gonfall, I don't need the island anymore. It's of no further use. So what did he do that he feels comfortable with being like, oh, okay, well, now I'm done? Because that's not like, I mean, I had said that when he was talking about like forcing people to do labor, that it was something like mining or, you know what I mean? And it still could have been. But I don't know. I can't decide because, like, the whole thing, Gonfall doesn't know what gold even is. And Eneru seemed like he was a Skypiea native. Like, that's what they said, that he was from a different island. But he does know what gold is and seems to understand its value. So what is he going to even do with it? Is he planning to, like, go down to, like, the sky, the blue sea and setting himself up as a god down there? Like, I mean, I guess that could work. Let's see. Seraphim says Chopper being called a raccoon dog is a running joke through the series based on a Japanese wordplay about the similarity between the words for raccoon dog, tanuki, and reindeer, tonoki. Oh, okay. Gus says reindeer is tanakai. Okay. All right, that's fun. I mean, I wouldn't have been mad if there wasn't anything behind it because, like, the only thing that sort of gives away that that's not it is the antlers. And I can forgive a guy for being a little bit startled at this very tiny creature that is having a full-on conversation with himself, walking by in the woods and not registering that this thing has antlers at all. Seraphim says you have Eneru's forces that are going out to take out either the Shandorians or Straw Hats as they find them. The Shandorians are coming to take out Eneru, but will attack the Straw Hats if they see them, and the Straw Hats who just want to get some loot and get the fuck out. But wait, what about the Divine Guardians? Is that what they're called, guys? Am I getting that right? Divine Guard? I feel like it was Divine something. Because they're, like, mixed into this as well. And at first I thought they were backing up the priests because of, I don't know why, to be honest. But I think I remember Gonfall saying something about how those were his guys and they're still out there kind of like causing trouble, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if he's got they are part of Eneru's forces. Oh, okay. I thought they were like a sort of, what's the word I want? Like unallied at this point. I thought that they had been with Gonfall, Eneru took over and like took all of the people of Gonfall's that were willing, and that these dudes were all part of a faction that was like, no, fuck you, and like went off and basically are in hiding and doing their own thing. So I've had the whole wrong idea about them this entire time. Gotcha. Okay. And it would make sense to me, even if they're not like against the Straw Hats, that you see these random guys walking through your forest and you would definitely be like, yo, what the hell? What are you even doing here? Get out. So, okay, I'm sorry guys, I'm jumping around so much here. But we have the fight between Wyper and Shura, where we see him use the reject dial for the first time. And it turns out that the reject dial is super dangerous to use. It's like possibly going to break all of his bones into tiny little pieces inside of his body if he tries using it again. And he's got like the arm that used it is all bandaged up. And I don't know if this had been bandaged up to start off with, or if it was, so if it's sort of like cartoon speak for now that arm is injured, so it's in bandages to indicate that it is injured. Seraphim says the Divine Squad were taken prisoner by Eneru and forced to work for him. Most likely on a do it or I kill you and possibly your family for some of them. Gotcha. Okay, cool. I can't believe I just need to register that they have families because they look like goats. So, I mean, I don't know. People are into all kinds of stuff. And Shura goes down, and back at base, Eneru is just like, ooh, stunning, upset. Shura is finished. And I love that his guys are like, they're called aides in this subtitle. Okay. They're like, isn't that a really big deal? Because you have had no defeats on your priests in 6 years. And it's been 2 days, and 2 of your priests have been taken out. That feels like a bad sign. And Eneru says, no, they were defeated, so what? Perhaps they lacked divine protection. And then starts laughing. Why are you laughing, sir? This is the one thing that I feel like One Piece really doesn't nail for me, is the bad guy dialogue. I feel like the best so far has certainly been Crocodile, because he has been very smart. So I can overlook some things because of the fact that he is an intelligent character. And Buggy the Clown is so absurd that his dialogue being ridiculous felt appropriate because he is just a joke. But everybody else, it's like there are so many moments of them saying some shit that's like not anything. And then they begin laughing for a long time. And it's just like, I want there to be more variety in the way that all of these bad guys sort of behave, because for the most part they have this kind of energy where it's just like, I'm going to say something about how you're a fool and I'm going to kill you or you don't stand a chance, and then I'm just going to stand there and laugh, and that's going to be like my whole scene. And I need something else. It's getting to be like, I feel like we're facing the same dude over and over again. And it's just, you know what I'm saying? I think you guys get what I mean. And it's not like a major problem or anything, but I feel like if we had villains that felt more grounded in anything, I would be a lot more invested. All I keep thinking about is the guy, the hyena. And it was like, what a weird villain he was. And he turned out to sort of be nothing, but he does a lot of laughing. That's his whole goddamn thing, you know? And I don't know. It's just like, I want somebody who's got maybe a really intense vibe, you know? Like, we've got Wyper here, but he doesn't feel like quite as much of a threat to my guys because he's after Eneru, really. Eneru feels like the big bad guy. If we had a bad guy who had like a real intensity, or who was like laughing but in a way that felt like, you know, not this completely, what's the word I want? What is it when you're like comfortable and you don't really make an effort? It's just a sense of complacency. That's the word I want. Where he's so certain that he doesn't like have anything to worry about. And that is the vibe with all of them, is this like complete certainty that they're like not in danger. Their guys aren't in danger. And I know that that's supposed to be kind of part of the threat, is that they have never had anybody stand up to them effectively before. So we're supposed to be intimidated by the fact that they aren't threatened. But when you do that repeatedly, it completely loses any impact it may have had. I am fine with a villain who is like, who are these guys? I gotta watch out for them. Let me like, you know, I want to feel like I have a villain who isn't completely taking it for granted that he's going to win, because if they are actually going, these dudes are sort of badass, I have to figure out some shit. I think that's a much bigger threat, because now I'm like, ooh, they're paying attention, they're preparing, they're doing some research and realizing that these guys aren't anything to fuck with, instead of just walking into a fight with Luffy thinking he's nothing, and then realizing they got more than they bargained for. So Eneru is just sort of like, there are times where I enjoy him, and there are times where I feel like he is just a complete cookie cutter of the other villains that we have seen over and over again. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that because it's really kind of a roller coaster for me. It's all over the place whether or not I find him to be interesting and fun or just kind of boring. So we have all of them like talking about the that's right, this is when we see all of the goat guys getting sent out to fight with this like giant priest standing over them being like, go out, go and handle our shit for us, they stand no chance. So yeah, these dudes are just really wild looking. Ugh. And we have this scene where it's sort of a weird like mix between some flashbacks to like the previous episode and this one, but we go and see that girl whose name I am forgetting, and she is putting all of that Verth back into the bag and is very resentful of the fact that this wasn't treated with any respect. She doesn't really see it for Wyper, is the overall vibe I get. And we go back to Wyper, who is still standing over this dude, and one of his guys is like, what were you thinking? That could kill you if you try and use it again. And Wyper gets really mad and says, it's my body, so I can do what I want. And secondly, if none of us are willing to make any sort of sacrifice, there's no fucking way that we are going to win this. So you guys had all better get used to the fact that you're going to have to be putting yourself on the line. But okay, so I'm just trying to make sure I'm not missing anything from the end of this episode, because we have a bunch of facing off between the various Guardians and various Shandorans. And, you know, that I feel like we don't need to get into in so much detail. But I do want to emphasize that the Shandorans seem to be going down pretty hard. Like, there are some of them that are really holding out and they're managing to fight their way through, but a lot of them clearly either are straight up outmatched or caught by surprise, and they don't seem to be prepared at all. So it's a series of takedowns that we see pretty much, and then we go into the next episode. And we get this really wild narration at the start of this next one, which is this narrator tries to say that everybody had to head north, and then like does a bunch of like north, you know, to the right, up, the opposite of south, whatever. And I honestly thought that was pretty funny. I wasn't expecting him to be all like, I don't know, editorializing on his little intro. But it's so funny because I think last episode I was like, I'm so glad the gang's all back together, and they just like immediately get lost from one another. I keep forgetting about the running joke of Zorro having no sense of direction. So we just get a bit with like Nico Robin, who does actually know how to navigate using a map and knows which points are on the compass. And she's looking around like, I know I'm in the right place, but where the hell is everybody else? Should I wait for them? And when we go into this section is when we really like touch base with everybody. Luffy had just said, it's always warmer when you go south, so I'll go this way. And he just starts heading in a direction that he doesn't actually even say out loud that it's warmer in this direction. I'm not sure what he was going with to like judge that. I'm going to guess that maybe it's like the area that the sun is going down in, because there's more heat coming from there. But all of them splitting up is on. It's like kind of. The show does a variety of things with this splitting up, where sometimes it's like in the two groups, like we've seen a bunch of times. But I do sort of prefer it sometimes when it's each individual separated from one another like this. Sometimes, you know, because getting to see the way they each cope with their problems is so different. Obviously, Zorro is over here like, I've got a new technique that I can use with my sword called the flying blade, and that is how I am going to deal. We've got Luffy, who is like, well, I am going to blow myself into a balloon and just bounce all of his ammo back into his face. We've got Chopper, who is going to walk around panicking, talking about how he's going to die and perhaps actually is already dead, which feels on brand very much for him. And we've got Nico Robin, who barely talks and just gets shit done and doesn't dilly-dally about any of it. It's delightful. So let's see. I'm trying to see where we start with this, with the next episode, because we get that intro. Okay, yeah, this is the last episode had just ended with Luffy getting kind of confronted by Wyper. And Luffy does, like I said, the blowing himself up into a balloon to bounce the ammo back. And he does it enough that it starts to look like it's like having some strain on him. And I sort of thought maybe that's what we were going to see, was that like Luffy can do something and it is effective, but it also is really draining. And maybe his body can't take it repeatedly. And no, that is not it. Instead, Wyper pulls out this weird, it's almost like a giant blowtorch. It's this like sort of bazooka shaped weapon that blows like a flammable gas at Luffy and then ignites, and the flame follows the gas that's still in the air. I think is how he described it. But long story short, it is no joke. Like, it just burns right through the, several feet thick trunk of a giant tree. And Luffy, for once, is like, oh, damn. Okay, that is pretty intense, actually. And more than once, I was sort of just like, Luffy, are you gonna get your ass whooped here like you did with Crocodile? Because, Luffy really, got almost killed twice with Crocodile. Those were much more tight battles than we have seen before. So I sort of was, thinking maybe he would wind up being outmatched here, actually. But we have, a lot of dancing around because Wyper can't decide exactly how he wants to approach this kid. If he sort of decides in the end, essentially, I can't use up any more of my energy fighting you. You aren't the one I'm even here for. It's all about Eneru. I need to get the fuck out of here. And I feel like that makes the most sense. There was a sort of part of me that was wondering, why is it that you are going after Luffy in the first place? Because it seems like the only reason why is that they're here. And that's it. They're on the island, and that's enough of an insult on its own that it cannot be borne. And I do think it is really funny that when he tells Luffy this island is our property, and Luffy says, wait, it is? I thought it belonged to God. And he says, no, it's ours. And Luffy just says, oh, well then, I beg your pardon. And he starts to walk away. I think these are my favorite Luffy moments. Like this, and when he compliments one of the giant gorilla guys on his makeup. Things like that, where Luffy is weirdly cordial to somebody, kind of all of a sudden. That's my favorite. That's the kind of thing, it's sort of like you disarm somebody with politeness and kindness. I have seen in person this stuff sort of work. And I admire that so much because, y'all, I cannot harness my rage long enough to just try a different tactic that might actually be more effective. I don't know how some people are out here doing the quote killing with kindness thing, because I'm not it sounds so corny, but it really does work. It is kind of wild, actually. You have to be super patient, and you often have to be willing to put up with some disrespect or You know, like the kinds of things that my pride is just not able to handle, man. And I think that's like my problem. I need to work on that probably more than anything. But Luffy has more than once gotten somebody to sort of stop and be like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're cool, buddy. And he doesn't do that in response to this because obviously they still have their big old fight. But the fact that he does eventually just sort of like go, I don't have time for this. I was like, I don't know, maybe Luffy's politeness at the start of all this factored into it somehow. I don't know. So, all right, let's talk about the confrontation with Eneru on the ship. Because he shows up and he starts some shit. Sanji gets all defensive as he do and gets electrocuted, basically. It's like what it looks like is going on. And there's this long, drawn-out thing with everybody thinking that he's dead. Usopp can't feel a heartbeat. And then it turns out he's just feeling on the wrong side of the guy's chest, and Sanji is still alive. But then Usopp does this, like, one of those things where you're like, oh, you sweet, sweet idiot. He stands up to Eneru himself and is like, you better get the fuck out of here or I'm going to make you get out of here. But he's shaking wildly as he says it. And it's just sort of, you know, mentally praying that this guy does not try and test him. And we get this cool shot of Nami's eye reflecting her view of Eneru. And then all of a sudden he disappears. And he reappears in the air, and he zaps the shit out of Usopp also, who falls backward, like exactly on top of Sanji, like the way that you would like lay a couple strips of bacon together or something. It's such a weirdly tidy little pile that they're making. And this is when he like has his chat with Gonfall. And the fact that he is able to straight up vanish, he does it again later. Nami is really fucked up over it. More than once, she looks like she may just straight up burst into tears. And he's talking to Gonfall about the gold and, you know, that's why we're all here. Gonfall is saying, why is it important to you? And he just starts laughing. Your ignorance never ceases to amaze. The only people in the world who know nothing of gold or its value live in the midst of an untold fortune. You didn't even know what the gold was, so how could you have won this game? Yeah, so we saw Gonfall ask several episodes ago at this point, what is gold? Apparently they just never answered the question because he is still asking. And Eneru just says like all of this shit. And then he climbs onto the railing of the ship and starts talking about like the sounds of war out there. But he says, can you hear our lively competition? I'm a contestant myself, so I must be off. And Gonfall asks, are you going to set the divine warriors free? And he says, God only knows. And he's not telling. And then he disappears. And I was just like, sir, if I were going to get my like dream casting for this, it would be really fun to cast the Dean from Community as Eneru, because I feel like he has this kind of chaos energy that would work really well. But yeah. When he vanishes again, like, Nami is just like, he disappeared! And I was like, girl, you saw him do that already. So as she's sort of, like, coping with that, and we hear Usopp coughing and waking up, a sphere passes out of focus in front of the camera with two little dudes riding on it. These dudes are apparently the brothers of Satori, but they don't, like, they're goat men, though. You know? So Sattery, it has been implied that the priests and Eneru came from a different island, and that the divine warriors were Gonfalls already. So are these... It just, they don't seem to come from the same place, so the fact that they're related is just kind of weird. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not a big deal. I'm like, it probably doesn't make sense, and it doesn't have to make sense. But I was kind of like, wait, does this mean that like Sattery had originally been a divine warrior and then like changed into one of these priests, or how does that work? I don't know. But these dudes turn up and they do that like, ha ha, fucking laugh, explain that they are the twin brothers of Sattery, and their names are something like Cattery and Mattery or whatever. And they begin to cause some trouble for our people. Y'all, these two are so tiresome. And I don't know. There is something about their weird fucking faces with these ears and the whole energy that they bring. I really find it unnerving. There's almost a sense of them being like little gremlins to me. And I love it when they're like, we don't know who Sattery is. And then finally Gonfall explains it. And they point like, ha, see, we knew it. And they're like, you liars, you knew who he was the entire time. Now you're all gonna pay. And Gonfall calls Pierre. Guys, Pierre remains undefeated in his ability to get me to laugh at fucking nothing. Because Pierre is just over here. Occasionally the camera will turn to him and he's just going, in his sleep. Like, it's supposed to be a snore, but it's just some guy going into a microphone, and it is just so fucking funny every time. And then when he gets summoned, he's like, ah! And it's this drawn out, not at all brave sound. He's being brave in the moment. Like, that's genuinely the energy he's bringing, but the sound does not go with it. Just like his appearance does not go with it, because he is so weird looking. So I just love him so much. I just had to mention this. So since both of our boys have been taken out, Nami is like, all right, it's time for me to get involved in this shit, because I have this weapon that Usopp made me, and I am the one that is going to have to protect my friends this time. So let's fucking do this. And Gonfall is just like, all right, well, first thing first, we need to figure out what kind of dials they're working with. And these two link arms and dance in a circle, singing, time to avenge our brother, time to avenge our brother, which is such another incongruous, like, if you told me that somebody says time to avenge our brother in this show and gave me like 60 chances to recite the line in the way I expected it to be delivered, this would be so completely out of the question. And this was another one that kind of like caught me off guard, and they are so creepy. I really don't like them. So Luffy, you know, we had the moment of Wyper saying, I can't be bothered with this dude, I have bigger fish to fry. But he doesn't just like leave. He says that. And then Luffy gets weirdly sucked into this like underground area. It's real weird. It's unclear exactly what it was that pulled him down, if it was meant to be like sort of a similar thing as the knock-up draft or whatever it's called, stream, but I don't know. But he gets like gripped up in this thing and pulled down, and the sound effect of it is really strange as well. It's like a combination of a toilet flushing and ice cracking. And when he gets pulled under, there's a bunch of ruins and there's trees growing. There's like a crown and a skull and all of these like gold items in the water. And it feels like he has stumbled across the site of a lot of the treasure that they're after, but it's under this huge cave. And it's unclear how he got there because like the camera pulls back and that cave hasn't got an entrance that we can see. So I don't know how he wound up here, but I am extremely curious to find out what the fuck is going on. So lastly we have Chopper, and he's just wandering around talking to himself. And I love that this dude with the dreadlocks is talking to one of the divine warriors and is like, where is he? Because he can't see Chopper anymore. And the guy is like, your eyes rolled all the way back into your head again, dude. You can't see him because you're doing that thing again. That caught me completely off. That was such a funny, like, I thought this was like related to a power he has, but apparently it's just like an inconvenient tick that he has. And the dude pulls out a photo of the Straw Hats and is like, how's your vision? Can you see this? Does this work for you? And oh my God, I love it because poor Chopper, he's just wandering around. At first he thinks that maybe he's dead. Then he's like, no, I think I'm the first one to arrive. And he's yelling, saying, Luffy, where are you? Where are you hiding? Come on, wake up. Guys, I'm the first one here. This is bullshit. And he's sort of standing on these like partially submerged ruins. So I'm like, are these ruins, have they fallen through this cloud? And there's like a cave of a cloud? And that's where the rest of them are? I don't know how the cloud works sometimes. You know, I don't really know what the capabilities are. But yeah, he is getting very irritated and he's saying, I'm starting to get a little freaked out, guys. And then all of a sudden he senses that this dude is behind him and his eyes have rolled back again. And he says, where'd you go? And fucking Chopper has his stick and he pokes this guy in the face and in the nostril with his walking stick. Unexpected. That's some guts. And this dude is just yelling, come out right now, because he can't see. And he starts biting on his lower lip, and it's meant to be like angry, but there's also like almost about to cry energy to it that makes me think of like a kid having a tantrum. And that is where the episode ends. So it's a really weird spot to end it from, but I'm glad that I didn't have to see poor Chopper getting like tormented any further, because he winds up in the midst of like the fight with the Shandorans and the Divine Warriors and is like just barely managing to move fast enough to get out of the way before he gets crushed in the, crossfire. So I always feel for him because the person who does the voice for Chopper is really good at the screaming and panicking, and it's very affecting. Plus, Chopper's just so small. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up, but thank you again very much for coming to hang out with me. Thank you again, Florian, for commissioning this. I hope you guys are enjoying it. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
was an Unspoiled Network podcast.